And that's how I keep her with me. I keep her in my heart and my mind, and I do that when I help professional women. So it's a pleasure to do this. In your case, it's an absolute pleasure to know that you have gone to new levels, because we can all do better, but sometimes we need someone to show they care and help us believe in ourselves and to push us.
Let me tell you about a woman who don't perform for the crowd, who don't dress up her truth to make the room feel comfortable.
And welcome back, listeners and viewers, to the Unbreakable Podcast Network. Today, we've got one of my favorite guys on the podcast, Mr. Dan Varroney. Dan, it's so good to see you.
It is great to see you as well. It's been too long.
Far too long. We go back and forth on text. We stay in touch. We celebrate wins with each other. But we really haven't had the time to just sit down and talk. So I'm really happy to have you here today.
Happy to be with you. Thank you for having me back.
Yes, of course. So why don't we start off and just share with listeners? I mean, we see this beautiful structure behind you. So obviously you're in the great state of, are you West Virginia or Virginia? Where are you at?
Virginia, and very nearby to Washington, D.C.
Correct. Okay. So let's give listeners and viewers a little bit of a background. You're a very well-known published author. You spend a lot of time on the news helping educate people. You talk about trade associations. You talk about the heartbeat of, I would say, North America, which is that small business owner. And you really represent an underrepresented voice with what it is that you do. So let's hear about it.
Sure. So I am a business owner, a small business owner, and have been last week. My company turned 14. And
Wow.
my company, my team and I do market research. We do strategy work. We do trade association governance work and market positioning work. And we're very proud of what we do. And in addition to that, I moderate a trade association CEO group called the Strategic Guidance Lab. And essentially what we do is we provide a forum by which that we focus on big picture, high impact, strategic issues and help our CEOs either grapple with what's going on or help move to whatever's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
And just love it. And it's been a remarkable experience. And in addition to that, I am a 2-time published author.
Yes, you are.
My first book was Reimagining Industry Growth. The second book, which came out just a few months back, is Rethinking Economic Growth. And I'm actually happy, proud, and really humbled to say that my book, Rethinking Economic Growth, has reached Amazon bestseller twice. And just over the moon about that. And that book is about small business. And you're right about it. I would say underappreciated is the right phrase. Here in the U.S., it's 99.9% of all companies. It's half of the total workforce. They drive 45% of the U.S. economy. So if you can imagine, this is a sector that really knows how to create jobs. They create 2 of 3 every new jobs. What I've tried to do with the book, there's 12 case studies, 36 small businesses are quoted and cited in the book. I talk about them often. At this point, they actually feel like they're family because I talk about them so much. And I've talked about them in a number of op-ed articles. Since the book came out, I've probably done about 70 different interviews, whether it be TV interviews, radio interviews, podcasts, and I'm fully talking about them all the time and all the value they bring and the changes from a policy perspective that I think are necessary to help them thrive. And if they thrive, I think the economy thrives even better. So in my recent book, I make the case that from the period of 1961 to 2024, the U.S. economy hadn't grown at a consistent basis of 3% or more. And the case that I make is that small business is the avenue or the vehicle really to help the U.S. economy grow at a consistent 3% or better.
That's fabulous. So let me ask you this, right? When we think about the small business owners, I mean, people are feeling the pinch all over the place right now. I know that we are in Canada. You go and you talk to, an engineering company that's, kind of smaller, family owned,
Hmm.
and they serve the oil and gas industry.
Yes.
And one of the things that a CEO said to me a couple weeks ago was, "I'd love to work with you, but my margins are so thin right now because of the economic times, because of things like tariffs." We have all of these different pressures that are coming in on business right now. I also know that a lot of people that listen to our podcast and watch it and take on some of the information that we share are small business owners, or they're people with really good ideas who want to become small business owners, but they're
Yes.
scared because the market conditions just simply aren't moving in a direction that enable them to feel that confidence. So if you were to sit down with, a new small business owner or somebody with a really great idea or somebody who's maybe feeling the chokehold of the current state of events in the world, what's your best advice to help them create change and to get and maintain that momentum to move it forward?
Well, I'll tell you this. What I learned in writing the recent book is that small businesses have built their own ecosystem in communities, in product lines, whether it be around the country or around the world. Small businesses are idea generators or innovators, and they
Hmm.
love to help other small businesses. And I encourage anyone wanting to get into a small business to go and have a conversation with 3, 4, or 5 other small business owners. And the reason why is they will give you good ideas. They will help you uh, learn what they've learned, give a shared experience, and give you ideas for how you can get started. And the other thing that I'll say is that when I started my small business 14 years ago, uh, it took a lot of guts, right? Because it's risky. But 14 years later, I will tell you that I'm glad I did it. And I'm even gladder 14 years that I'm still doing this. It's
Yeah.
very rewarding. It's absolutely rewarding. No, it's you put your heart, your mind, your body, and soul into it, and it is really yours. So I encourage anybody thinking about it to first go out and talk to 4 or 5 other small business owners. I think that you'll get ideas. I think it'll make you comfortable, and I think if you're thinking about it, you should just go and do it.
So that networking piece, super important. I agree. And, the other thing I find too with small businesses, because I ran a business for a number of years before I decided to become an employee. Boy, Dan, I'll tell you what, do I ever enjoy paid vacation? I haven't had it in about 15, 16 years, and it's lovely. I don't stress out when I take a day off, which is nice, right? But, you know, when you think about it, there's a lot of opportunity to collaborate, right? The I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. And so, can you talk a little bit about that reciprocal relationship where it's like, maybe I don't have to give you money, but maybe I can do something to help advance your business. Have you seen that before in some of
Oh
the
my God,
businesses?
I saw that in all 36 small business owners
Really?
that I interviewed. Oh my gosh,
Oh,
yeah,
I love that.
it was all over the place. It was in their communities. They in several cases they talk about how they get together as small businesses. So if they were having challenges in recruiting workers or keeping workers,
Mm.
they'd have conversations on that. If they were talking about releasing a new product line, they would talk about that. So I'll share one of my favorite stories from this book. There is a tooling and machining manufacturing company in the state of Ohio, and it's run by a person whose name is Jack Schron. And Jack is an innovative, out of the box person, and you just love him when you're done with the conversation. And the tooling and machining companies in the city of Cleveland got together because they didn't have enough workers. So what did they do? They went to the local county prosecutors and they said, can you work with us and can we work with you to develop a program for non-violent felons coming out of prison? We will train them and we will hire them. And they have done that, and they have improved their workforce situation. They have lowered the recidivism rate. But I'm
Yes.
giving you one of many stories of how these small businesses just figured out And I'm giving you an example of it was a win-win, not just for the companies, but it was a society solution. And I said, Jack, how is it working? He said, you know, we have given our faith and our trust to these folks, and they're never going to forget it. And they work harder than most. And it's such a cool story that I could tell it a million times. It's so energizing to talk about that. But I will tell you, they work together all the time. And I'll tell you that even in my own situation, I will call other small business owners. So I work with contractors who are small business owners, and we talk all the time. As a matter of fact, one of my contractors and I are developing new product ideas, and we're launching them into the marketplace. Just launched one recently, and we've gotten some good early feedback. So it's never be afraid to collaborate. Among small businesses, we're all in it together. And it's really cool when somebody else succeeds, because if they succeed, you know you're going to succeed. I believe in the rising tide that lifts all boats philosophy. And the more we all help one another, the more we all succeed.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I love about you, Dan. And, I want to switch gears a little bit here and maybe move away from the business talk. And I want to talk about our relationship and how we've come to where we are. And, when your first book was coming out, I think it was your publicist had reached out and had said, hey, I'd love to have Dan on your podcast, which was the Pocket Change podcast. And we had a great time. We talked. It was an hour long. It was wonderful. And my creative director at the time dropped off the call, and you said to me, can I give you some feedback? And I said, sure, I'd love that. And you were very, very open and very kind about it. And you said to me these very simple words, and I don't know if you remember this, but you said to me, I don't think you're living to your fullest potential right now. And so by the next time we talk, I want you to think about what you're going to do, and I want you to go out and do something that's going to help you move into that potential. Like, you gave me the greatest dad advice. And it was really interesting because it was shortly after I'd lost my father. And so that compass that I had that would have said those things to me was no longer there. And so I somewhat think that you were sent to me for a reason. But that was such a touching moment for me, Dan. And you know what I did after that? I went and I did a compressed MBA with the University of British Columbia. And I spent 3.5 hours, 3 days a week in a digital classroom with a bunch of people that I did not connect with. I mean, they were lovely people, but they just weren't my people.
Sure.
But that's taken me to another level. And I feel like what you did for me that day, putting yourself out there and taking a risk to give this young lady from Canada that you'd never really met before some feedback because we had that connection, was really powerful. And so I guess the first thing I want to say to you is thank you. Because
it's an absolute pleasure. And I will tell you, I've been so blessed throughout my life and my career, when I've had people that have given me the nudge or the push or the shove saying, Dan, you're not anywhere close to your potential and you can do better. I worked for CEO at the National Association of Manufacturers, that he had left his CEO role and I was going on to my first CEO role at the time. And he said, remember, it's always about continuous growth, change, and improvement, and promise me that you will stay there in that lane. He passed away a year ago, January, and I went
I'm sorry
to pay my respects. And I mentioned to his wife, why I felt so compelled to go. And his name was Jerry Jasanowski, and what Jerry meant to me. And I think it's just important to help others reach their full potential. And the other thing I would say along those lines is that, so in my second book, I dedicated to my sister, Andrea, who I knew as Andy. I lost Andy, over 50 years ago in a tragic car accident. And Andy was smart. She was beautiful. She wanted to be a school teacher. She had just finished her second year in college. I was 4 years younger at the time. I was only 15. And she was killed instantly, as was my younger brother. And Andy has been with me almost every day in so many ways. And what I mean by that is that Andy gave me a book of Winston Churchill quotes several months before she died. And that courage to continue and never give in, stuck with me the whole time. And believe me, when you lose people you love, and within 3 years after that, I lost my dad. I was only 18. These losses can almost break your soul if you allow it. But what I did is I thought about Andy in that book, and years later, I finally figured out why she gave it to me. And right above me, I'm going to read this to you. She gave me this book of quotes, but my favorite is: "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts."
Yes.
And that is here with me till this day, as is that book of Winston Churchill quotes. And what I do, the way I honor Andy, actually on June 2nd, that's yet another anniversary of her death, is I honor Andy's memory when I help professional women in their career. That is how I honor my sister. And that's how I keep her with me. I keep her in my heart and my mind, and I do that when I help professional women. So it's a pleasure to do this. In your case, it's an absolute pleasure to know that you have gone to new levels, because we can all do better, but sometimes we need someone to show they care and to help us believe in ourselves and to push us.
Absolutely. And I think you're really talking about like the core of the unbreakable spirit. To experience loss, particularly at that point in your life, something as tragic as that, um, unimaginable for me, frankly. It's interesting. When my father passed away, a friend of mine said to me, because it was a devastating loss to me, and she came to the house and she dropped off a basket of goods, and she texted me. She didn't even knock on the door. And so in there was a warm blanket, there was a magazine, there was a journal, a grief journal, there was a coloring book for my daughter, there was dog snacks for my dogs. There was something in the basket for everyone. But she felt compelled to care for us, and and left it on the porch. And then she texted me afterwards, and she said, "I didn't want to disturb you. I know that your phone's ringing off the hook right now, and I understand how you're feeling," because she had recently lost her mother a couple of years earlier, and we had done those same things in kind, right? As well as she was a small business owner, and we ran her business for about a month while she was home dealing with things, grieving. Working on the farm with her dad and all of those different pieces, right? So we learn to take care of each other. But I think that when it really comes down to it, the one thing that she said to me that sat with me, and I think it reflects really beautifully in the story that you just shared about Andy, is um, grief is love that is unchanneled. It has nowhere to go. And so, I think of it like this, right? And there's a whole like series
Yeah,
in the book just on
yeah,
grief and how to deal with the grief
yeah,
of growth, how to deal with the grief of loss.
yeah,
And
yeah,
And so, you know what I made? I made a decision that day that every time I missed my dad, I was going to go out and do something kind for somebody else.
yeah. And I will tell you, it's important that we honor our loved one's memory.
Yes.
And I can think of no way better, from my perspective, of helping professional women go to the next level and succeed. I think now, more than half the women in my CEO group are professional women. And I would stand on my head backwards if I had to help them, because it matters to me. I want them to achieve success far greater than they imagined. And to me, that gives me the ability to honor my sister. And, again, I lost her 54 years ago, but she's still with me. And that's the
Yes.
way I keep her with me. I met someone a couple of weeks ago. I'm in the process of redoing my speaker website, and another small business owner, who, by the way, lives up in Pennsylvania, said to me, "Hey, you should reach out to Melissa. She does websites and all types of creative things." And when I went and I researched her, she had lost a 4-year-old child, and she took all that hurt and all of that grief, and she put it into building a web design social media business, and she's now out on tour speaking like nobody's business. So
Incredible.
instead of it breaking her soul, she found a way to honor her daughter and her memory and to move forward. So honestly, I felt compelled to work with Melissa and her team for no other reason than that. It's when people get that, that speaks to me in volumes, because when you've lived through that kind of grief, again, it can break your soul, but when you live through it, you know what it's like. It also helps you become more compassionate and far more
I
sensitive to
agree.
other people, their grief, their loss. So there is good that comes out of it, but you've got to be determined to find the good and then to drive to the good and then drive from the good.
It is. It's a mental practice, right? I've seen people who grief is very raw, right? And I know we all go through those periods of time, but I think social media has amplified it because people
Yes,
are compelled to share that grief, whether it's on LinkedIn, Facebook,
sure.
Instagram, whatever that is. And you see people who they live in the loss as opposed to
Yeah,
focus on how they can take that loss and drive
sure.
it forward. One of the things that I did, I was so concerned about my mom, and we lost my dad in November, 2 days after my sister's birthday.
Hmm.
It was crazy timing, and it was a freak way of him passing away. It was an internal gastrointestinal bleed after a surgery that he was recovering from. And I often say he went out on his own terms. And
Yeah,
because they were walking down the path and they said to him, they'd suggested a feeding tube. And he was like, yep, over my dead body. We're not doing that. I will starve before I'll do that. And they were like, oh, okay. It was that whole thing of like, give a mouse a cookie. That book, if you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. Well, guess what? That mouse asked for a cookie. And they were like, no. And they ended up giving him blended diet and he was thriving. And then just boom, this happened. And I was, my mom was just a stellar caregiver. She gave up 2 years of her life to just really try and find solutions and care for him, despite how cantankerous he could have been at certain points.
sure.
Um, so I did, like my sister was, her birthday was on November 17th. He passed away on the 19th. And so I made sure that I sent her, an edible arrangement at work so that she felt loved and she felt cared for. And then afterwards, I thought to myself, what can I do to take care of these people? How do I, how do I care for my family? And, and it's interesting because I found that my grief became resolved by investing my love in other people. I really took that thing that my girlfriend had said to me and I put it to good use. And so you know what I did for them for the holidays that year? And of course it was COVID Christmas, so we couldn't be together. There was no
Right, right,
funeral, there was no service.
right.
We couldn't even go to the other province. And because I mean our restrictions were draconian in Canada. And so I created something called the dad box for my sister, and my dad's
Yeah.
nickname from my mom was the Big Fuzzy because he had a big beard. And so I made one for each of them, and I sat at my computer for hours and I went through photos and I went through stories and I created a box that I sent to them each for Christmas. And they each had 12 months of letters. So there was a card, a letter with a hand scripted love note in it, plus a couple of little extras, just having a bad day, open me. And it was like, silly little puns that my dad would have loved, and a box of chocolates that he would have bought them after eights,
Hmm.
and
Sure.
a framed picture of him. And so what it gave them, in my opinion, was the ability to remember him and go through that year of firsts, the first
Hmm.
summer, the first Easter, the first
Yes,
birthdays, the first fishing
yes,
trip without him,
sure.
all of those different things, but to remember him with love and with grace and with the energy that he brought into the world.
Yes,
And by doing that, it was a very cathartic and therapeutic process for me
yes,
because
yes.
I got to remember him and honor him, and I got to love them on his behalf.
Yeah, I'm just going to tell you that I feel that those those types of activities, they're essential, they're critical. Uh, it it helps you not manage your grief. It helps you channel your grief in a very positive way.
Yes.
I remember my mom after the car accident, after losing my dad. My mom never channeled her grief. She just lived her grief for all the years. And when she passed away, uh, she was as devastated as she was after the car accident, after losing my dad. And I kept saying, you need to find a way to channel this. But she never did that very well, unfortunately.
And that is unfortunate because
Yeah.
it's like it's a living death, almost a living death sentence.
Kate, it absolutely is. It is.
Yeah. So, when you think about those experiences and you think about the lion heart that you carry in your chest, because I mean, when I think of like Dan Varroney, if I were to compare you to a Care Bear, you'd be the yellow one, the lion heart coming out and saving the day and inspiring people and lifting people up because you're just such a darn good person. Now, you have been married to this wonderful, beautiful soul, and you have a beautiful family. You are expanding. You have granddogs, and I think we've got grandkids, and we've
We've
got
got
like all
5
of these
grandkids, yeah.
Holy smokes, it's a factory. I love it. So you've created this long-lasting legacy. So, when you think about your relationships and you think about, this beautiful relationship that you have with your wife, I mean, how long have you guys been married now? It's been,
In July, it'll be 46 years.
gosh, congratulations.
Thank
Unheard
you.
of. Like
Yeah.
that's a beautiful
People
thing.
tell me that all the time. Yeah, 46
Yeah.
years.
And what's the secret? What's the secret?
So, everybody asks me that question, and I think it comes down to always be honest with one another. And Janine and I are brutally honest with one another all the time. But we love one another more than life itself.
Yes.
We give each other space to be angry. We give each other space for the other person to be angry. We give the other person space to come and apologize, to say how sorry they were for acting stupid. And I've had more than my share of apologizing for being really stupid. But I think it's being really honest. I think it's being really trusting of one another and knowing that you're all in it together.
Yeah.
Kate, what's interesting for me is that when people say, Dan, you had a career running trade associations, you were an elected official at one point in your career. Now you've got a business, you've read 2 books. And I just say, let me just tell you this, that none of it would have been possible without Janine. None of it. And I am just so honest with myself about that, because it not only has Janine been a champion and a cheerleader, Janine has been the person to say when I was wrong, that I was going at it the wrong way, or I was missing an opportunity, and this business, writing the books, was Janine's idea. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it. For the life of me, I didn't see it. So from my perspective, if you're going to be in a relationship, you've got to be willing to listen and you've got to be willing to learn. None of us are born the perfect package. I mean, I don't care who you are. Janine helps me in that way. She's also one of the kindest, most loving human beings I'll ever know. She's a labor and delivery nurse. All of her colleagues and her patients adore her for obvious reasons.
Yes.
She does things for people that most would never dream of. And I love that about her. And one of the things that I will tell you, I saw this really cool movie. It was a Hallmark movie, and it was called Loving Leia. And it was about a brother who had died, and what the couple realized at the end of the movie is that the brother who had passed away had helped them each find one another to love, and it was them. And I feel that with the loss of my brother and my sister and my dad, that they pointed me to Janine, and that's how it happened, that they wanted to make sure that I had somebody to love. And it worked. And I count on her for all day, for everything. We kid each other. We laugh at each other and at ourselves every day. And she's just a hoot. I mean, she just cracks me up.
Oh, we'll have to have her on sometime with you.
You should. I mean,
I think that would be fun.
I will tell you that she is an absolute character. What's on her lung is on her tongue. And she's really funny. She's
I love
absolutely funny. And that's people love her for her. She's real. She's sincere. And she is smart and beautiful. I mean, it's just amazing. And I feel very blessed with her. So Princess gets a dozen roses. I call it my princess. She gets a dozen roses every week.
Yeah.
And every week she'll say, well, who are those for? And I'll say, seriously? And, and she just cracks me up. I'm like, are you kidding?
That's so funny.
Princess always worries, that I'm going to run out the door with somebody else, which is absolutely cracks me up. And this is a true story, Kait, and I don't mind saying it on the podcast. So when I was in college, a million years ago, there was a very attractive young lady that I tried to get to go on a date. Probably over 2 years, I must have asked her out 50 times. And she wouldn't go. What I didn't realize until 10 years ago at Janine's 40th high school reunion was that this person was in Janine's high school graduating class.
Stop.
Yeah, it comes up to me, hugs me, kisses me, wouldn't stop talking to me. And after the reunion, we got back to the hotel and Janine said, did you tell me everything about you and this person? I just said, yeah, nothing happened.
Oh my gosh.
and she said, she seemed mighty familiar. And I just said, I have no idea. I just like, what are you talking about? And she said, she certainly seems mighty interested. And she was convinced I was still carrying a torch for her or something. And I was
golly. You're like, no,
and I'm like, are you kidding me? So we saw her again at her 50th reunion. And Princess was all wound up about that too. I saw the two of you hugging and the big smile on her face. And then she said to me, you're in big trouble. I'm like, great.
Am I?
But she gets all wound up about that kind of stuff. And I don't, because the person will never exist that would cause me to leave her. Because Janine has just been my entire life. I mean, and I will tell you, when I met Janine, keep in mind, it was 7 years after the car accident. It was 4 years after losing my dad. And generally speaking, I was pretty broken. I wasn't all back together yet. And it was Janine and I together, right, that helped me get past that hurt and that grief. And we built this life together. And honestly, I don't know what I'd do without her. So she had heart surgery about 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago. I remember that.
They found a non-malignant tumor in her heart, and knock on wood, she's doing great. But that shook me like nobody's business.
Yeah, I remember.
Like, what am I going to do without her?
Mm-hmm.
So, but she's thriving. We love our grandkids. We have 3 grandsons and 2 granddaughters. And when you're a dad like me who's had 2 daughters, oh my God, when I see my granddaughters, I'm in 7th heaven. And we've seen them twice in the last couple of months. And I'm like, oh, we got to go see them again. And Princess will say, you got to go see your grandsons too. I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah, them. Oh, that's wonderful. And so then, when we think about that, I think, you've created this beautiful legacy, and that's like really the foundation of Unbreakable, right? Like when I say it on the podcast all the time, is I've never seen a U-Haul following a hearse before. Right? It's always the only thing we're leaving. It's what we're leaving behind. And that legacy is the people, the fingerprints on, the people that we've impacted. I mean, you think about, what Janine's done in her career and the things that she's done to alter and save and change and impress other people's lives in her work. But not only that, but then in your children, and how your children are now doing that with their children. And I mean, that is an exceptional legacy that you've got.
Yeah, well, thank you. And again, it's not all me. It's a lot of it it's Janine, and it's Janine and I together. we worked very hard in raising our kids, meaning that we wanted them to know that life was about more than just them, that it was about something else, that it was about service to others. And we insisted
Yes.
that they move into careers where they could help and serve others, that we told them that in the end, that would create the greatest satisfaction in their lives, far greater than they ever imagined. And that's, and I got that from my dad, who was a medical doctor.
Really? I did
Who
not know that your dad had been a medical doctor.
He was a medical doctor, yeah. And he loved his patients. I remember
Mhm.
going with him to the hospital to see his patients. He would have his stethoscope around his neck, smile on his face. He was whistling. He was where he wanted to be. And being a doctor gave him the greatest joy. And I never forget that. But for him, it wasn't all about the money. It was about serving and helping people. So back in the day, here in the U.S., doctors made house calls.
Yes.
And my bedroom was next to the stairway. And 2:00 in the morning, I'd hear him go down the stairs, and I'd say, "Dad, where are you going?" He said, "Somebody needs my help." And I heard that
Mm.
probably any number of times. I remember Christmas Eve in a snowstorm. He was leaving the house. "Dad, where are you going?" He said, "Somebody needs my help." And that stuff sticks with you. It helps you find your true role in life, right? Which is to serve others. And I think I owe my dad a lot for that,
Mm.
because that's what gives me the greatest joy in my life, is that the idea that I've made a difference for someone, regardless of how good I was feeling on any given day.
That's beautiful. And, it resonates deeply with me because, there's a whole section in the book about how service actually shapes us as adults, right? When we're serving
Yeah,
as youngsters. My
yeah,
first political rally, I think I was 6 years old. I wrote about that. And it was, and of course, my dad was at the time voting for whoever was going to help a single dad raise two little girls in the north of
sure,
Canada, right? And
yeah,
so he was fair weather in terms of how he voted. And it was, if you're going to meet the needs of these two little girls, then guess what,
yeah,
right? But further to that, like there's a story in there about how he would pack us all up into the back of his camper. I think he must have put 5 or 6 of us into the back of the camper, and he'd drive
yeah.
us down to the seniors' home, and he'd kick us out, and he'd leave us there the whole day. And so by the time
Wow,
we had left, every single senior had been
sure,
played with, had been
yeah,
entertained. And you think about the mashup of like the 90s together in a seniors lodge. And
yeah,
it's not like TikTok today where we're teaching people how to dance, but you know, the ability to kind of go out and give back to others without expectation. Like I've got a sign on the back of my wall here my daughter got me, and it was a gift from her, and it meant so much to me because of the sentiment. And it was, what does it actually say? Oh, I wanted to make sure I got it right. Expect nothing, but appreciate everything. Right. And so
yep, yeah,
it speaks to the fact that we go out and we do the things that we're going to
yeah,
do, and we
yeah,
participate in the things that we're going to participate in, not with expectation of reciprocation, but I mean, if I were to say there was anything that I would expect from the volunteer work that I do with people, it is that they continue to carry it
yeah,
forward, and that they put the effort in to support and serve themselves to get the best outcomes that they need. So I think it's powerful, and that's such a beautiful reflection, Dan.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing
Thank
that.
you. Well, you're welcome. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So we only have a few minutes left before you got to jet set off, but I want to ask you, we've got listener questions. They come to us. I've got two in the chat here from Josie. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read one that I think is going to resonate with more than just the person who wrote it. And this is the question. I'm in my 20s and I'm struggling to figure out what I should care about. I look around and see my friends already being successful, and I just don't know where to put my values to get there.
So, an interesting question for the conversation we've just had, Kate. And I think that for that person, they need to go and find one or two things they really care about and volunteer.
Mm.
So the way you find yourself is you give of yourself.
Oh,
And when you
yes.
were talking about your dad, I worked in my first political campaign when I was 11 years old.
Gosh.
I was at a major political convention when I was 15.
Me
What
too.
all of, and what all of that helped me see and helped me understand by giving and helping and doing, it helped me see what my role in life would be, what my values would be. And the world is bigger than us. And I think for a young person in their 20s, they need to spend some time out helping and giving, and that will help them find themselves.
I agree. I wrote it in the book is volunteer service, giving of yourself is better than any education you can get in an institution. And I understand that we need to learn
Yeah,
economics, we need to learn processes, we need to learn all of those
yeah,
different things. That's fair. But when it
yeah,
comes down to understanding where you fit in the world and
yeah,
then being able to fulfill that position, not only
yeah,
does it help you identify those specific things that are important,
sure.
but it also gives you experience. And experience is something very similar to education. It's something you never lose.
You never do it. And look, I understand nowadays for people in their 20s to try and figure out whatever it is not as easy, right?
Yes, that's true.
And I think the way forward is to go out and get involved in one or two things and really give it your all. And that will help you discover, first of all, it'll help you find your heart.
Yes.
And once you find your heart, that will drive your head.
Hmm.
And it just goes from there. You know, none of us look, I had 5 jobs in 4 years out of college. And it took me a time to really find what that was going to be, but I did. And, I'm thrilled with what I did. But for young people, go and get into something.
Yeah. And really, sometimes it's about just taking the first step and throwing the stone because you'll very quickly decide what is not good for you. I remember
Oh my
I
God.
did
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
bottle
Yeah.
drives, never. I'll write the check every day.
So Kate, I will tell you, I was having, uh, breakfast with a friend last Saturday. And I said, throughout my life, I never realized how much of an entrepreneur I was. And the person said, I knew that from the first day I met you, 5 years ago. And, and, and I said, what do you mean? He just said, you are a risk taker. You're an idea generator. You don't mind trying and failing. Well, I've done a lot of trying and failing. It's not all been success and sunshine. But I'll tell you what, it was all the failures that taught me the lessons I needed to learn to evolve and to grow in whatever would be next.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, Dan, if you were to leave one final thought with our listeners when we take all of this conversation into context,
Mhm.
what is one final thought that you would leave with people as they finish this podcast?
So I think the importance of having faith and believing in yourself would be part one of it. And part two of it is remember your role in the world and in helping others evolve and grow and be successful. Those are the two things that I think that if you do them, you'll find joy, you'll find happiness, and you will find your own success.
Absolutely brilliant. Dan, thank you so much for joining me. The next time we get together, we're going to have Janine come on and we're going to have a heyday. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, I promise you will enjoy every minute of it.
Well,
I
plant the
I
seeds
love it
for me.
dearly.
Plant
Yes,
the seeds for me.
I will. I'll let her know.
I'd love that. Wonderful. And listeners, viewers, thank you so much for joining Dan and I today. We're going to drop Dan's book links in the description here. So if you're interested to learn more about what Dan does and how he interacts with small business and trade associations, I promise you, you will not be disappointed in hearing Dan's stories about the impact that he's had. And remember, protect your peace, chase your dreams, and stay unbreakable.
Meaning no camera rolling, no caption for the gram, no, just the real one doing work that the fake ones can't handle. Yeah, you see the difference, that's the difference, that's the difference. They want you filtered, polished, pretty for the beat, she shows up uncut.